Yeah, there we go. It's going to be no Warlock out of team name, but otherwise a very similar strategy with the Priest and the Frost Mage, a Rogue replacing the Warlock. So I would give the edge here to Evolving with that damage, but let's see if the Rogue is adding anything to team name strategy, you know, kind of finesse-wise, right? Pathing-wise, that is better than what Evolving can do. Here come these first pulls. They are so... Oh, no! Evolving have had a player go down. Their healer right on the first pull. That is really, really, really bad news for them.
Yeah, they need to get him up. There we go, they got him up. But Alex dropping incredibly low as he just now got rid of his necrotic stacks. But he's trying so hard to survive as the buff is already out by Aisha now. He had to probably buff him early here because he had went down. So now I'm not sure if Alex can even survive the rest of this as Shello is ramping up his damage. But it's still going to take a little while until the Strash goes down. He's just trying to kite a little bit here. But now Soda goes down too. Alex goes down. This might be a wipe. I don't think they can finish this off with so many dead players. Shell is still alive, but he can't be doing any damage as the mobs are just following him. I think they're trying to kite this out, but this is a disaster for Evolving from the get-go.
Oh no, and team name also having things be difficult, but have yet to have a death there. Players dropping to like 10% health, but being saved from death. And look at the damage they've been able to put out with that Shadow Priest as well. Shadow Priest not having to donate a power infusion on the side of team name, whereas in Evolving it needs to go to Shella. And so able to do just a huge amount of damage. Curry is all by himself.
Did they forget to lust? I'm pretty sure Evolving use Bloodlust there usually, right?
So I think that it's less a case of like forgetting to lust and more a case of the healer dying so early into the pull that was where things already had started to go bad. But yeah, I think they should have probably hit the lust when the res came through. At least it would have been good. At this point, I don't know if you're supposed to press it though. I don't think you're going to get too much value, so maybe you save it from here until something like the next pull or the first boss. As Soda going down too, and we've now got 6 deaths on the board for Evolving. First pull still not fully dealt with. Just look at the count though. You can see how much more ambitious Evolving's strategy was. As they already have more count than Team Name, and their pull isn't dead yet, but Team Name are zooming through the dungeon.
Yeah, team name dropping pretty low from that pull as well, and you can see the ocular gland giving the negative stats, unfortunately, here to end down the Frost Mage. So I want to get out of that range pretty quickly to get the positive effect again from that trinket. And now they're about to finish that trash pack. They also have the Stoneborn controlled here by one of the Venthyr players. They actually have 2. They have both the Sub-Rogue and also the Paladin playing Venthyr. So in case something goes wrong, they also have a backup mind control.
Yeah, that's good. And actually there are a couple spots in this dungeon where you can pull like 2 or 3 gargoyles at the same time and then have both players mind controlling, and you can get control of an extra 1 or 2 that way. So maybe they'll make some use out of that, although I think that's more of a live key thing than an MDI strategy.
Yeah, I also think so, as Evolving is now going into that pool that Team Name just got done with, and they have that Bloodlust available, so they popped it straight away. Shelley unfortunately does not have the Infernal just ready just yet, but it's going to come up in a second, and he's immediately popping it. There we go. The Infernal damage is going to come out as well for Shelley here. Team Name dealing with that Fire Tormentor here. Well, Evolving, I think Evolving didn't actually pull it on top of this pack, right? So they're gonna... Oh no, there we go. They did engage it now. So they decided to just pull it at the end of this pack.
Yeah, this timing, it does, I think, mean that Evolving probably something like a minute and a half maybe behind where Team Name are at right now. So it's not insurmountable, but Team Name definitely got the better of this opening exchange. It is worth noting they do need to find quite a bit more count, though. They're still only at 55%, and you'd really like to be at around 80 once the first boss dies so that you can just go straight to the next boss and not need any more trash. So you can see Lepan getting started with pulling a bunch of trash right now, and this might even go into the first boss.
Yeah, I think that is the plan as they're gathering up everything and also engaging Halkias here. This is a really dangerous pull as some of these Houndmasters, you have a hard time gathering them up, and also the Obliterators. You can see them in the right side corner just casting through on Lepan, but they did now manage to gather them all up with all of the interrupts that they have on their range DPS here. Also PI being popped by Curry. and just all of the cooldowns basically being committed for this outside of the Bloodlust that we have. We also see the Ashen being pumped too by Igloo to make sure everyone stays nice and healthy, on top of also doing a huge amount of DPS. And they also have some of the Stoneborns. They actually have two Stoneborns also committed for this.
Yeah, look at the way Lepan is just so carefully and slowly moving here. That is one of the things that will cause him the most problems, is if a slam hits another player. But they've been doing a great job of preventing that. Meanwhile, Shella ascending over on the side of Evolving, as they also have a pull going on here. Not quite as big, because they didn't need quite as much count out of this one. So maybe this will be an opportunity for them to catch back up, as they should be able to put a little bit more damage into the boss here compared to what Team Name was able to do.
Yeah, and I just noticed one interesting thing about the Frost Mages here. We have Enda on the Frost Mage for Team Name actually playing Kyrian, while Evolving's Frost Mage is playing Venthyr. So, interesting difference.
It's the third unique Covenant we've seen for the Frost Mages this weekend, because we've seen them on Venthyr and Night Fae as well, but the Kyrian, a cool addition as well. I wonder what I'm not an expert enough Frost Mage to know what all that means, or what the Kyrian is bringing. Looks like he's playing Kaya as well. I think that might be the first time we've seen that Soulbind tree deployed in an MDI setting also.
Yeah, very interesting. I guess we can ask Anda, or maybe Syro probably can talk about that a little afterwards as well, because I'm also no mage expert myself to know anything about that. As Team Name is now getting lower and lower on Halkias here. Of course, this is the highest key level that we have in this tournament here with that 22, and it's also Tyrannical. So these bosses are taking quite a long time, especially when you pull a bunch of trash on top. Then you're going to be focusing on the AoE to make sure everything stabilizes and the tank can actually survive, because it is necrotic, and that's why you see the bosses actually taking so long as well.
All right, 79% count here for Team Name. I think that is enough. I think they have all that they need, so they are going to use their Shroud. Nice thing about Shroud as well here, means you get an extra damage pot too, so that's going to shave another 10 seconds or so off the dungeon if everybody uses one of those. So when you factor all of that in, let's see what the two different boss splits are going to end up being for the teams here. It does look like maybe a minute total when you factor in the deaths, maybe a minute and a half between the teams. Team Name getting started on Echelon. I would say the hardest boss in this dungeon. Soda down on the side of Evolving, though, still against Halkias. That's going to cost them because they don't have a battle res available.
Yeah, I think it was one of those smashes as you just talked about. The tank just getting smashed, and the Windwalker being too close, and actually Shadow Priest, my bad, being too close and going down there. But thankfully the boss is pretty low. They don't have a battle rest that they can commit. Igloo also going down for Team Name. They do have a battle rest, thankfully, so they can get him back up. But that can be dangerous. Now they're out of battle rests, and they have to be careful, because Echelon's still on really high percent here on that Tyrannical boss fight. So any other mistakes, and it's going to cost them a lot of time.
Yeah, that death would have been deadly for them if they hadn't had that battle res. So now if any more deaths come in the next 2 minutes before they get that battle res back, things will be really, really, really bad for Team Name. Look like they're doing all right now, though. This fight, you know, it's deceptively, it lulls you into a false sense of security, because for some bits it just does nothing for a little while, and then you just have like 13 abilities coming out at once as all these imps are casting on you, and you need to land the jump and also avoid all the damage too. Okay, they're doing a good job though of managing all of this. I think they're going to be okay with this combo as well. Yeah, so well done. They have Echelon now at 35%, whereas Evolving are actually going to do a Warlock Summon to get their entire group up here. That can't have been part of the plan. There must have been a potion use that wasn't prescribed there.
I think so as well. It probably was one of those potions, especially when things don't work out the way you have planned. Then maybe you commit to a potion that you maybe shouldn't have, just because you think that you maybe are not able to do the pull otherwise, or get the boss down otherwise. So they had to get the gate, the summoning portal. But that's what you have the Warlock for, right? They actually managed to save that and didn't have to die. So they saved a little bit of time there. As a Team Name did recover from that death on Igloo, they're gonna get another battle rest up soon. So they're gonna have that safety net again. But yeah, definitely don't want to make any further mistakes, as they're not that far ahead compared to Evolving. As you said, it's gonna be approximately a minute. So if there's gonna be one team wipe or anything going wrong for Team Name on the other two bosses, it can definitely mean Evolving is catching up. And there's some really dangerous pulls ahead for them, right? We've seen some really crazy pulls on top of the next boss, and it looks like they might even be skipping Varuth here.
Oh, that's going to make the last boss even more deadly. But yeah, you can see the Mind Soothe being used on Varuth, so they can just walk right on past it, and they are just going to go straight into the next boss. So this dungeon for them has been just boss into boss into boss into mini boss into boss. That's going to be their how this dungeon ends for Team Name. Pretty impressive. Back to back to back to back bosses.
Yeah, I think the last boss is going to be quite dangerous with those 3 Tormented Divas, right? They're going to have the 50% healing reduction, they're going to have the 50% physical damage increase, which basically means that if you didn't die to a statue before, you're definitely going to die to one now if you get hit by that one. And then on top of that, you're also going to have the 50% slow. So that's going to make the last boss quite dangerous. I would assume they're saving that Bloodlust for the last boss because of that added difficulty. And this pull that they're doing here, they're doing that without Lust. They have those 2 Stoneborns that are helping them out with the damage reduction on the group as well. But look at all those Shades. The Shades are not an affix we talk about very often because usually these teams handle them pretty well. But if you're on such a small platform, fighting a boss and having a bunch of Shades walking all over the place, then it can be pretty dangerous still.
Yeah, absolutely something that Team Name needs to worry about. Look at these boss 2 splits between the 2 teams. I just want to call some attention here. You know, even though nothing really went wrong for Evolving on this second boss part of the dungeon, you know, they didn't have these deaths, and Team Name actually did have Igloo go down. Somehow Evolving have lost another 30 seconds on this split of the dungeon. Let's see if they can do anything to try and claw this back. They are going to fight Varuth all by itself as well, so another slower part of their strategy than Team Name, but maybe this extra difficulty on the last boss is going to prove to be too much for Team Name. That is what it's all going to come down to at this point.
Yeah, let's look at Team Name as they're finishing off the 3rd boss here. I believe they don't have a Stoneborn anymore, as they had the double Stoneborn for this boss. We've seen some teams, I think it was even Evolving, that attempted to get one of the Stoneborns here onto the last boss. It didn't work out because they casted their Mind Control too early, and then they didn't manage to Mind Control it anymore. But that was something that Evolving does, just getting that extra 10% damage reduction on the last boss, plus the extra damage that the Stoneborn is doing. But Team Name doesn't do that. They have the 2 Stoneborns for that pull before, so they're not going to have any of those for the last boss. And now they need to make sure they are meeting the damage check on this mini-boss here, because they want to get this boss down before he casts that second evocation. Otherwise, it's just going to heal to full HP, so they have to deal with those neutrals.
Wow, look at the Frost Mage damage here. Now, obviously, a lot of that's going to be dealt to the ads, but with the way the Kyrian Covenant ability works, too, it's also a huge amount of priority damage onto Cigar itself. And so they're going to be able to kill this thing easily before it reaches its next Dark Communion cast. And they are already in position to pull the last boss here. Bloodlust is ready. It might be held for a little while. It might be held for the Ashen Hallow later. They have to be really careful here because they do have the Healing and Reduction aura, which can be pretty deadly. So it looks like they might even be waiting for cooldowns here or something. I'm not sure what they're up to.
That's very possible that they're doing that, considering that they know that they're ahead, right? So it looks like they're pulling the boss now. They have those triple Tormentor debuffs, as you can see on their player frames. So really dangerous. They're not popping their Bloodlust just yet, waiting for some of those cooldowns to come back up as well. And yeah, this is really dangerous though, especially when you have that intermission phase with the woe coming out, the beams that need to be soaked by the players. It's going to be so hard for Eagle to heal that with that 50% healing reduction. They're going to have to use all of their immunities and defensives for that, making sure they're taking at least like half damage if they have anything going on for them with mitigation.
Yeah, you can have a player soak 2 beams at once. So each of those 2 phases, you need 2 players who can soak. So they have 3 immunities across their squad, and then throw in, say, 1 tank in one of the other spots, and that should mean that they mitigate much of the damage. But I mean, look at the pressure on Lepan's health bar here. While he has that extra physical damage taken and reduced healing received, he's already under so much attack as well, and Necrotic is not making things easier.
Yeah, there's just a healing reduction on healing reduction, as Eagle is using Lay on Hands, but they barely healed anything, as he's got so many healing reductions on him. Now we're gonna see that intermission going in, all of the statues are being pulled. Now we're gonna see who's actually soaking that Ritual of Woe, and Bloodlust also being committed now, so that is something that they were holding on to for healing as also for damage. Like just dropping so low as Eagle is trying to keep him alive with all that he has, with the Ashen also on the floor, and they just trying to power through this as the next ritual is going to happen in a second. There we go, next ritual is coming in as all the statues getting pulled. Let's see if they can survive this one.
Yeah, this is so intense, but they're almost at the end now. Lepan is so out of resources, though. No meta, no Fiery Brand, no Fell Devastation, and no Last Resort available here. Also does not have a Cheat Death Trinket available. Is going to soak this ritual also. Gets a nice big shield there. And so he's got that, and Hilda's Aegis trinket from the 9, but look at his health, he's got nothing here, he's dead. He's dead, and they don't have a battle res available, and you can see the boss now is just going to start auto-attacking and dealing a lot of damage here. 20% health on the boss. They need to battle res Lepan, and they've been able to do it. Great battle res there, but he still doesn't have much resources left. He's got Fell Devastation back. And so that's going to put him in meta for another 6 seconds. He is running out of time, but so is the boss now. 10% health. They should be able to get over the finish line here, but this is just so brutal on the tank. Oh my goodness. Oh man, they've done it though. That is the boss's health hitting 0. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Team Name only killing one of the Tormentors there and having an extremely strong finish to that Halls of Atonement run.
Master of that improvisation, and when something does go wrong, preventing it from being a full-on wipe, as both teams are getting started here with some massive pulls.
Yeah, notably Complexity's pull here, double Shard of Halkias, so twice the trouble. And it's important to note that their second Shard of Halkias doesn't normally get into the pack until a lot later, and so they end up having to deal with that mob. It ends up taking them substantially longer, where Obey Alliance here, they run to this the front of the dungeon, the front of the beginning of the dungeon, I guess is the only way to describe it, off of this podium area. They kite all of these mobs around, make sure to drop Sanguine perfectly, but they're only dealing with one Shard of Halkias, so their pull takes them substantially less amount of time, but they end up doing around 2 more pulls in the dungeon just in total over Complexity, and Complexity was able to get their first pull dealt with almost perfectly. They are downing this second Shard of Halkias here in a couple moments, and they grab this Groundskeeper's into them.
Yeah, so if you just look at the enemy forces count, this looks good for Obey Alliance, but you absolutely have to factor in the Shard of Halkias itself is just something that hard stops your progression through this dungeon, right? You need to kill all 3 of those, and Complexity has dealt with 2. Obey Alliance has only dealt with 1 as they get started now with their next big pull. Skylark already under so much pressure, even right at the start of the pull, forced to use a lot of defensive options, and now going to be choosing to kite instead of tanking these mobs.
Yeah, and we've seen him do this a lot where... So, Scott also ends up kiting on Complexity's side a lot, whether it be for Necrotic or whether it be for Sanguine. But whenever they're running that Frost Mage, it allows their mobs to stay grouped up a lot more... it's just like a pretty big clump. Ooh, Skylark procs his cheat to this pack. Oh, I really don't like that off the side of Obey Alliance. Oh, no.
Yeah. Definitely an important defensive option that he doesn't have available now, and also doesn't have meta or even Fell Devastation for a while, so he is definitely in danger of just dying if he's not careful. They are almost done with this pull, though. As you can see, things starting to kind of slow down for Obey Alliance, but Complexity getting another massive line of sight pull sorted out here. Houndmaster's not really cooperating, though, as they immediately start jumping out of this pull as soon as the CC breaks.
Yeah, so now Obey Alliance is grabbing this 3-pack patrol, and on top of that they're grabbing one of these Stoneborns and pulling all of this into the Shard of Halkias, where Complexity, they're gearing up to pull their 3rd shard here in just a couple moments. If they can get this Obliterator out of Sanguine, please do.
They've done it. Scott is nearly dead, but not quite. He does have 2 stacks of that nasty bleed from the Gargans, but he's okay as they now get healed up and get ready to start this big pull. All of the trash basically on the right-hand side of the dungeon is going to be involved in this one, as many of their cooldowns are back. No Ashen Hallow, but most of the other stuff should be up for this, as you can see there, using again that line of sight technology to just get everything nice and grouped up, and the Ring of Frost to help it be a little bit less deadly right at the start. But Scott is so low, he's taking so much damage.
He still has his cheat. He still has his cheat and he has his meta in 7 seconds. So this should be fine. He's looking to get a Necrotic reset off of all these mobs. Hopefully none of them connect with him, and he gets a really good reset at 15 stacks. So that means that he can just stand in this pack, plant, and attack it for longer periods of time, since he does have more of his active mitigation up if he wants to pop that meta.
Shakib doing so much damage on this pull on the Windwalker. This pull's so good for Windwalker with Zhuan and everything available. Obey Alliance, meanwhile, the two teams just have a completely different plan when it comes to how they're going to deal their damage, right? You can see Complexity on that double mage Windwalker. Obey Alliance breaking out the Unholy DK, something we've seen a couple of times this weekend, but not a common choice. And then also the Shadow Priest filling in for them just to help support the Fire Mage a little bit more with those power infusions.
Yeah, and so now Complexity has their third Shard of Halkias dealt with. They need a little bit of time to have that Halkias' anima bar at the bottom of the screen you see fill up to 100% before the boss becomes engageable. So instead, they are going to elect to pull Incinerator Arcoleth, pull it with a bunch of these Groundskeepers, and just kite those Groundskeepers around to make sure that Scott's not going to get murdered by them. They are fairly dangerous and can get you stacked up on Necrotic pretty quick if you're not careful. And so dealing with Incinerator Arcoleth while you're letting Halkias activate, it seems like a really good intermission pull where you don't have to burn a lot of CDs.
Yeah, this is something that is, you have to find a way to deal with Incinerator at some point. You can fight the last boss with the aura, that counts as dealing with it, but that is really, really, really tough.
Yeah.
And it means you probably can't do the last boss with the healing reduction aura, which means you're pulling an extra mob, right, anyways, either way. So this is definitely the least bad way to deal with that mandatory pull. So yeah, Complexity definitely earning some time here. They are now at 63% count, as are Obey Alliance, however. Obey Alliance still has to deal with Arcoleth, whereas Complexity have done it, and they are now making their way towards the first boss with a huge Necrotic Sanguine trash pull that will be joining in for the fun.
Yeah, and this is where Complexity begins to take like an even bigger lead than they already previously had.
Oh, JB gets hit by that tank smash there. He's going to fire off the land hands on somebody else as well. Ashen Hallow Wings, though, huge recovery from them. Whew, that was scary for a sec.
Yeah, I think he bubbled is where he got the Forbearance from. I don't. His land hands looks like it's on CD for pretty well.
Land hands on cooldown because of the Forbearance, and he was targeting himself or something, and that's why it shows up like that. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So now Lip here, also dropping pretty low, but Complexity has dealt with this pack of trash really easily. They do manage to kite the boss out of the Sanguine, not having any casualties. JB doing a great job of using that preemptive bubble, not allowing any more damage to happen to him. We saw that he had 2 stacks of that bleed from those dogs as well. Really dangerous stuff, but Complexity was able to get that trash pull dealt with. We know Obey Alliance is going to run a slightly smaller pull, but they need a major mistake from Complexity if you were an Obey Alliance fan right now.
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible. As you can see, Halkias at a third of its health for Complexity and just been pulled for Obey Alliance. Obey Alliance are also going very big here. They are pulling all the same trash as well. They'll be getting up to their 80% threshold as well. Complexity will earn that as well once they finish off these Groundskeepers towards the end of this boss fight. And then both teams will just have a boss, a trash pull and a boss, a mini boss, and the last boss, and that will be the rest of the dungeon for them. So this is very quickly going to accelerate towards the end of the dungeon. Obey Alliance have clawed back a little bit of time here, like a sixth of the boss's health they've regained compared to Complexity, but it is still a large time lead that Complexity have opened in the start of the dungeon here.
And I think the last 2 pain points that Complexity are going to have is, like you said, that trash into the boss. That trash into the third boss in this dungeon is very dangerous. And on top of that, I think that their Lord Chamberlain can cause problems. So whenever you're playing Executioner of Baruth's 50% heal reduction with Lord Chamberlain, your tank is liable to go down at any given moment. Lord Chamberlain is a boss that it kills tanks very frequently on live, and while this is a 19 fortified, playing with 3 Tormentor buffs is no joke.
Yeah, we've seen it cause some deaths for some other teams. They do need to make sure that doesn't happen. But once they get to that point, that will mean most of the hard stuff in the dungeon is taken care of, because there are still some really tough pulls in their future. After this boss, which in and of itself is pretty tough, thankfully it's only on a 19 fortified, so the easiest possible version of Echelon that could exist in our tournament here. Even still, quite a scary encounter. The big make or break moment in the dungeon, though, is likely to be the trash pull after this boss. which will conveniently also include the next boss. It's going to be every single trash mob, except for that tormented mob, onto the third boss, and that is a huge breaking point.
And if you have any amounts of Sanguine healing, if you have a large amount of Sanguine healing, like we saw Obey Alliance have earlier in the weekend, where they healed the boss up like 40% of her HP, that could be the moment that Obey Alliance needs to just kind of catch back up. Currently, they are a minute behind off their boss 1 split, which, oh man, they would need an absolute catastrophe, I think, from Complexity on this third boss.
Yeah, but Sanguine healing certainly could qualify, right? If Sanguine healing happens, then all it takes is like a little bit of damage efficiency for Obey Alliance to get back into the lead. As you can see, half a boss separating these two teams right now. That is not a huge amount at all, but it is certainly noticeable, and it is clearly in favor of Complexity right now. Echelon nearly dead for them as Scott just base tanks the smash there from the boss. Not too worried about it as the tank there. Now they're moving around to the side. They actually don't have Mind Soothe here, so they have to fight Executioner Varuth. And this is going to be the Ashen Hallow potentially from Jay. Oh, no, okay.
No, they visit. They visit off.
Yeah. So this is something that costs them a little bit more time because they don't have the Mind Soothe, but still find a way to skip Varuth there. Whew, for a second, I thought they were going to actually fight that thing, but no. They are onto the boss here with all of this trash.
Yeah, so look at all of this trash that's going on to the boss. And we've seen it cause some problems, but typically whenever you have like a Kyrian Vengeance Demon Hunter, they do also have access to Bop if they want to have another Necrotic reset for Scott on that tank. Typically, it's not the trash that's going to cause problems. A lot of the time that we've seen it so far, it's been that Sanguine healing that's been causing issues. They have a lot of damage from that Frost Mage and that Fire Mage. And on top of that, Shakib on that Windwalker Monk, they just have a stupid amount of AoE that they can put into all of this trash. But making sure that you kite that boss out of that Sanguine right as all of those puddles drop, and make sure that she's not casting her bolts while those mobs die, that's the most important part of this pull.
Yeah, you can see they are doing a fantastic job of managing that. Very well done, as you can see the Sanguine Puddles barely going to heal anything and certainly not going to heal the boss. Oh, they got to kick fast here, actually. The boss
5%?
is
10%?
instantly getting a 10% heal. That's not going to be enough to change things here necessarily, as we now look at Obey Alliance getting started with the same pull. If they can really, really do damage here, maybe they can claw this back without a mistake on the side of Complexity, but it's going to be so tough. Bop comes out, immediately canceled on Skylark. That's a technique to get your Necrotic removed, but you have to cancel the Bop instantly to avoid everything instantly turning and killing one of your melee.
So one of the big things that we haven't talked about in terms of composition is Obey Alliance has a substantial amount more boss damage than Complexity has. And that can come back to be in their favor. I think that Windwalker Monk compared to like the Shadow Priest is going to be a decent amount less boss damage. And then on top of that, I think Frost versus Unholy DK is going to be kind of close, but the Unholy DK is going to have his army plus his lust on Lord Chamberlain, which can turn the tide by a pretty big margin.
Yeah, I would expect that they're very comparable outside of Lust, but with Lust and Army, I would definitely give the edge to 40 on that Unholy Death Knight. Just 20% boss health separating these two teams now as Obey Alliance are hitting the gas pedal a little bit, but Complexity have found a friend. They've got a loyal Stoneborn that will be mind-controlled for them right now, as the beautiful timing on when to pull it in, as they now make their way towards the last mini-boss here, instantly getting started on attacking it, preparing their damage for as soon as that Dark Communion finishes. They are not interested in that getting to another Dark Communion cast.
So whenever they were doing this dungeon earlier, they almost got to a second Dark Communion cast and had to burn Bloodlust whenever Inquisitor's Cigar was at like 10% HP to ensure that they got the kill off on this. I would really hope to see that they don't have to do that again. If they had to do that again, Obey Alliance is actually in position to where they may be able to take advantage of a minor blunder like that by just having a hair too few.
So close.
Perfect.
The touch of death comes out from Shaq, though. Great work by Complexity as they now start the last boss here. Bloodlust is popped. They actually won't have Ashen Hallow for this for a while, but neither will Obey Alliance, so that is all equalized as well, and we are just going to be watching that boss HP. Obey Alliance need to get on this boss very soon, and they need to
get fired up.
Fired up.
He knows that he just survived a tragedy.
Got a big grin on his face as the next statue. Oh my goodness, he is under attack.
He knows that he is just very, very narrowly matrixing out of the way of all of these statues, just dipping in He should not be alive right now, honestly.
Obey Alliance have gotten started on Lord Chamberlain as well. They are holding their Bloodlust right now, perhaps for some more of their cooldowns to be recovered. The army does come out though, so we should see the Lust soon. Army and Dark Transformation use, and there's going to be the Time Warp right as the Erupting Torment comes out. So maybe that should have come out like 5 or 6 seconds ago, or maybe they have some big plan here. I don't think they're going to make it back to the Ashen Hallow though.
They're
as
not.
Complexity are melting this boss. Neither team is going to actually, maybe even JP gets his Hallow on this. As you can see, just 5 seconds left, and yeah, they will be able to get a little bit more damage once that becomes available. You can see JP is just going to instantly hit it. Maybe not. Maybe he's not going to instantly hit the Ashen Hallow. Maybe he doesn't need it. You know what? Ashen Hallow is a crutch.
You should press that button. It's a good button. Please press.
That. No need. No need
the
for
J.
Ashen
Babes
Hallow.
are chanting, Ashen, Ashen, Ashen.
We're fine.
Please press the button.
Don't
JP, press it.
Don't need it, had it all along, never needed it, never didn't have it. As you can see, Complexity, once they kill off this boss, there will just be 5 seconds left for Obey Alliance to stop the clock, and they will not have enough time with the boss at 25% health. Complexity win our Group B weekend.
.gcd.tv, but we're ready to go with game number 2 as Echo is up 1. Let's dive in here to Halls of Atonement.
All right, so there we go. We'll see what Echo has to show us here in this dungeon. We saw Reload Esports yesterday. They are going to this right side. They're pulling Arcoleth immediately in to this shard pool. Looks like Echo is doing the same thing. So both of them pulling the shard, controlling the gargoyle, and also dealing with these inspired Houndmasters. So there's no way they can interrupt the Inferno cast from the Tormentor. So it's just going to go through and needs to be out-healed by the Paladins with their Ashen running.
Yeah, but of course, with the wings, with the Ashen, with the Bloodlust popped, that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And of course, with that insane focus damage, single target damage comp that both teams are running, again with the Frost Mage and the Rogue, they shouldn't have any issues bursting them down. But check this out. Same pull size, and Reload Esports has just put Echo to shame here. They finished that first pull like 10 seconds faster. Yes, Echo pulled like 1 extra mob, but I'll take 10 seconds of an advantage, 15 maybe, over 1% trash any day of the week.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the MDI companion is already updated. You guys can check it out as well under mdi.gcd.tv. And it looks like Shimkins, or Simkins, I believe his name is. He just renamed him because of Shimmer, I guess, which is a really nice one as well. But he is running that same legendary again, and it really does seem to be paying off. I mean, the amount of damage this Frost Mage is doing is just insane. Of course, Gingy's also doing a lot of damage, but it does seem to be a little bit of a difference, and they're clearing those packs quite a bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, look at the difference in the damage in that pull, right? Shim was up near like the 50+ K area. Gingy's only around the 40K, and you might be thinking, oh, they're both still topping the meters. But doing 25% more damage than your counterpart is like, it's a huge deal. I mean, I saw this legendary and I thought, oh, that's pretty decent, but I was thinking about Fire Mage when I thought about it, right? And you're never going to play any other legendary as a Fire Mage, right? You're almost always going to be playing just that crit damage boost. But for Frost, crit and haste are just your 2 best stats on AoE, right? Because of the way Shadow works for Frost Mage, you get insane value out of crit, and then on top of that, you get more Icy Propulsion stacks as well. I mean, your Icy Veins cooldown is pretty much like 10 seconds on a big AoE pull at this. And also, the stacking value of haste lowers your Blizzard cooldown. The lower your Blizzard cooldown is, the more Frozen Orbs you get out. The more Frozen Orbs you get out, the more AoE damage you do. Frozen Orb is your top damage by far in a dungeon like this. So, yeah, stacking haste percentage increases are just nuts for Frost Mage, and I love seeing the new legendary tech.
Yeah, I definitely like it, especially when there's teams that are maybe not known to be like the top teams come in and they have these new kind of things that the other teams didn't think about. This happened before, right? Where we had, I believe it was Reload Fulcrum that came in with the Holy Paladin Shadow Priest combination that was completely new to all the other MDI teams. Everyone was playing that Disc Priest and didn't think about that Ashen Hollow Holy Paladin, and all of a sudden everything changed in the MDI. As soon as other people saw that comp, everybody switched to it. So it's cool to see these kind of new things and new techs coming into the MDI. But yeah, both of the teams now dealing with Halkias, and you can see Reload reached the boss first, so they are a bit lower. It is 21 Tyrannical, so the percentage that they are ahead is actually quite meaningful, at that close to 10%. And they just keep pulling more and more trash into the boss, as you can see on their side. They're gonna get a lot of percentage here. I'm pretty sure yesterday they accidentally went over percentage. They killed like 6% trash too much. We'll see if that was just a body pull or if they can even be faster than their time yesterday if they don't do that extra trash pull that they did last time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is something interesting for sure. I remember... I'm sorry, I'm so hung up on this Frost Mage legendary choice. I remember during time trials, actually, I believe it was Xingshen, the mage for our team over in China, asked her why. He was playing with disciplinary command for Frost into other side, because in the Ardenweald area, you're just blasting AoE non-stop. And it was actually just a better legendary for pure AoE than any of the regular Frost options. Besides Glacial Fragments, but you never played Glacial Fragments because that's no single target increase. And yeah, I just wonder why nobody else ever thought to use this legendary, because it seems like it's working out great for Reload Esports. Now, of course, on that particular pull there, Echo did actually end up pulling ahead on boss damage, and I don't want to say it was specifically because of the Frost Mage damage, but Jinji is going to have better focused boss damage because the legendary is running. But for pure AoE, this legendary should definitely be better.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, because on some bosses here in this dungeon you cannot really pull any trash on top. On Echelon you do have the ads that spawn, these Stone Fiends, where Simpkins could use his shifting power there to get those extra stats. But then on the last boss there's nothing you can really pull on top. So you're not gonna get the extra stats there necessarily. So yeah, we'll see how the damage goes for that last boss. But now looking at the Echelon, Reload Esports did pull ahead. Even though they pulled the boss later, they're now going ahead. It's probably just because of cooldown differences, right? Whenever someone pops their cooldowns, they're gonna be, you know, jumping ahead for a couple of seconds, and then their damage is gonna go down. And if the other team pops their cooldowns later, then that's just gonna be a little bit of a back and forth between boss percentage. But look just how close these teams are. This is absolutely crazy. Both of them should have enough trash. I do remember that it's like 80% that they need. I would assume that Echo didn't miscalculate it, and 79 is just gonna be fine for them as well.
Yeah, if I remember exactly, it's like 79.85 is exactly what you need to make sure you have enough trash after killing the second boss, so they should be fine. I would hope that a team that's as well established as Echo and the MDI would not mess up your trash count, especially when they have mirrors over their shoulder telling them, you know, calling the shots for them like that. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're fine, but check out one of the things that Echo is doing on this boss that it looks like Reload isn't quite in tune with. Echo is just letting Frag use those ads on this boss to pump boss damage, doing, again, 30%, 40% more pure damage on this boss than the other rogue, is allowing them to just blast Echelon down, and they have a 10% boss advantage because of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice thing that Echo is doing here and showing us how they get that extra damage in. You just need to coordinate your AoE silences from the Demon Hunter and maybe AoE stuns as well that you have available to make sure that those casts don't go through. You can see the sigil, the Fear Sigil now being used as well by now to make sure the casts get interrupted. And now one more thing that I remember just now is Reload Esports yesterday, they skipped Veruth, but then they killed Sogodon afterwards. And I was questioning this decision because I felt like if you're gonna kill one or the other, if you're gonna kill Sogodon or Veruth, then you might as well just go with Veruth, because that one gives you a damage power, right? So yeah, we'll see what they do, but Echo is skipping Veruth as well, immediately pulling everything on top of the boss here. We'll see if Reload Esports is gonna do the same. Looks like they are. And yeah, if they're gonna deal with Sogodon after this boss on Reload side and Echo is not, then that's going to be a big advantage for Echo.
But this is a big, big deal here for Echo right now, as Echo had the Ashen Hollow. Azalea popped that Ashen Hollow right away just now, so he's going to be able to help heal his team up and do damage to the trash. Reload Esports doesn't have their Ashen for another 10 seconds still, so their initial damage on this boss is going to be a lot worse than Echo's. Echo should just pull ahead by a lot here. And the other important thing is that Ashen's going to be up sooner for Echo on the final boss as well. So Reload Esports is just falling further and further behind here after that insane first sprint of the dungeon, it looks like they're just not able to keep the pace up and match up with Echo.
Yeah, definitely falling a bit behind. They do have their Ashen now up as well, so they might be able to catch up a little again with that cooldown being used. You can see though that Echo did just gain a lot of single target DPS because of the cooldowns they used. They have the 2 inspired mobs now up for reload as well. If you can look at their side, they have both that Gargan and the Collector. We saw them do this yesterday, and I was really impressed with how they dealt with this, because usually you want to just focus down the inspired mobs as fast as you can so you can interrupt the boss, because the boss casts that volley. But Reload Esports perfectly knew that they're not going to die to the cast going through, so they just focus the boss and they just let those inspired mobs up. They're just cleaving them down, and this is really good for the rogue damage as well, right? You have that extra cleave targets for the rogue, so he's going to gain a little bit of single target. And you can see they caught up a little bit on boss DPS, but unfortunately Echo is done now, and they also got that extra Stoneborn as well that they just mind controlled, and now they have to meet the damage check for this mini boss here. If they don't kill it before the second Dark Communion, then that's going to be an insane time loss. But that's why they basically kept this Stoneborn for this mini boss.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it should be a really quick, easy job for both teams to just burst down this Inquisitor, but we've seen for multiple teams in the past, namely Complexity, they've had sometimes had issues burning down Cigar here, but it shouldn't be too big of an issue for Echo here as Inquisitor Cigar goes down. Reload Esports just now starting to go for their burst onto the Inquisitor, but do they have a Gargoyle? I don't think I see one on the screen.
They had
right
one.
now.
They had one, but I'm not sure where it went actually. They had one. I remember them pulling it.
Huh.
Maybe it.
Well,
they still did it though.
They still did it. It doesn't
close.
matter. But I mean, they did it again slower than Echo, and Echo has already pulled Lord Chamberlain. They already have Lord Chamberlain down to 85%. And remember, look at the Ashen Hollow timers across the board for both teams right now. Zalia's is up a minute from now. They have to wait a minute and 30 seconds. For McLean's on the side of Reload Esports, I mean, if everything goes clean for both teams here, Echo is just in the driver's seat.
Definitely, they're just the 10% boss HP ahead, but it's still incredibly close. And you have to keep in mind, they have 3 Tormentor debuffs here. They have the physical damage increase, 50% healing reduction, and 50% slow. If you get hit by any of those statues, you're gonna be one-shot for sure. And then you also have this intermission phase with the Ritual of Woe that's going up for Echo right now. You can see them soak it with immunities, probably. It looks like Salia's not even immuning it. He's just tanking it and out-healing it on himself. But yeah, huge amount of damage. He actually had to bubble just now to be able to survive. He dropped incredibly low, so he did get that bubble off after all. And yeah, Reload Esports, gonna be hard for them to make up the damage. Bloodlust being popped now by Echo because the Ashen is about to come up. All of their cooldowns are available, so they're now gonna be doing a huge amount of single target damage to the boss. But the Ashen not ready for another 30 seconds for a reload, so they have to hold their Bloodlust for another like 20 seconds.
And I mean, if you're a Reload Esports fan right now, you have to just hope that Echo gets obliterated by a statue, because that's the only way they have a chance of coming back right now. With the Ashen down, the wings popped, Zalia is going in with that Bloodlust, and Echo is pulling away with this Halls of Atonement. Lord Chamberlain dropping incredibly fast, and Echo just barely squeaks by against a team that we didn't think played that well yesterday. But Reload Esports, I mean, I think if anyone had a bad opinion of this team, they just got completely... I mean, my expectations are blown out of the water by that team. Like, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of speechless by how well they played.